Yo, sure. What is it with everyone thinking that we're the exact same person now?
I honestly don't know how we got to this point, man. First of all, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm the younger brother. My name's Deshver.
And I'm the older brother. My name is Matab.
And it's gotten so bad to the point where if I go to Matab's phone and I just swipe, it thinks I'm Matab and it opens the phone, no hesitation. And the same is vice versa.
Yeah,
Like,
we can open each other's phone, no problem. It's crazy.
it's crazy because, I think we can make some money off of that from Apple, to be honest.
Yeah, Apple should pay us, man. Honestly, Google and Apple, we've broken your system like the iCloud. It thinks we're the same person. It confuses us, which actually causes us problems when we're trying to find photos of each other for whatever reason. But we've broken your system, so Apple and Google, you should pay up.
Um, but it wasn't always like this. Honestly, when we were younger, we had completely different looks, completely different appearances, and on top of that, our personalities were very, very different, but we always stuck by each other. I think like my entire childhood in some sort of way, as in if it was putting me onto music, putting me onto putting me ahead of my time, just you created the dynamic that I kind of follow. But as we kind of got older, this separate personalities that we had with the same interest kind of like morphed into like one where we kind of closed this like age gap that we have, which is 4.5 years or something like that.
Yeah, the age gap of 4.5 years, it became smaller as we got older. I think that's just with siblings in general. When older you get, the age gap kind of becomes non-existent. Even though you and I were still part of a different generation, so I've seen things that you've never seen and so on, and you've been part of like a different wave. But yeah, obviously, like I put you on to things as I grew up, just because I had gone through cool things and lessons or whatever it was, and so I decided to bring that into you. And obviously, like the main kind of important thing was advising you along the way. Stuff that I've went through experience wise that I didn't want you to go through, or that I didn't do and wanted you to go through. It was like lessons being taught and things like that. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. I want to go through like our dynamic with you, older sibling, younger sibling. I don't really think it's specific to like brother or sister. And also at the same time, I also have a little bit of that younger sibling dynamic because we're the youngest of all the cousins, right? So we still get that baby treatment a little bit. But between you and I, it is that definitely that older, younger sibling dynamic for sure.
For sure. I feel like as we kind of got older, we learned from each other a lot, just bouncing back and forth. Not always a forward projection in my way, right? I wasn't always just looking up to you. I think there was a lot of times where um, you kind of had to look back and live through my life and
Yeah.
learn a lot of things from me. And collectively, you and I, as you mentioned, like we learned so much being the youngest in the entire family, right? Because our dad is the youngest brother in the entire family, and we have so many cousins who are all older than us. And with that being said, we got to both get this um, younger brother or younger sibling kind of vibe from all of our cousin sisters and cousin brothers who were achieving like milestones along their life. And we never really got to see them in our life yet, but we
We're
got to experience.
getting there slowly. So it's,
We're
yeah,
getting
you're
there,
right.
but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it was cool to kind of like get like a taste of it from them. Like I remember still we would,
Like,
enjoy parties way earlier than any of us should have been at some.
bro, we were going to
Um,
clubs. I mean, you were going to clubs underage using
yeah,
my ID. And then,
yeah,
but that's what it was. It was, we were riding around in like limos, Bentleys, Mercedes, whatever, like going to these clubs, which we thought at the time was so cool. All these guys
especially
were doing it.
for like a kid our age or like kids our age, right?
Yeah, when we thought clubbing was the thing and whatever. But again, we were getting into these clubs in Toronto, bottle service, everything. And we're just like young kids. Or, I mean, obviously, like I was 16, 17, whatever. You were even younger. But it was cool, right? We got this experience and we didn't have to, at that time, we didn't have to spend a dime. It was all covered for us by our cousins, right? But let's talk about our dynamic. Like you and me, I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
people that are watching that know us personally will laugh at the fact that we're so similar. There's obviously more to that, like between you and I. So I'll kind of talk about myself right now. So I had to take on a certain responsibility when it comes to being the older sibling, right? And I'm sure people can relate, but you have to take on this parent role to your sibling. I did that with you when it comes to like school or advice or whatever it was. And when it was family related issues or whatever we may have had, I had to be a little bit of that parent to you. But it was almost like I was a parent, but I was like, yo, I understand him. I know what he's going through, so let me just like explain it my way to him, right? I'll get through to him, but I can do it my way, you know? Whatever your personality was, like, whether it was like rebellious, trouble, good, bad, didn't really matter. But that was the way that he had to get like sorted through, right? And like talk about the whole living through seeing your projected of like 5 years ahead of your life. Like what was that all like?
Yeah,
Or
I
like
mean,
explain it first, like so people actually know what we're talking about.
yeah, I think we talked about this before. Like, I think it was when you are a younger sibling, you kind of have this obvious projection, and then when you're the youngest of the youngest in your entire family, all you kind of have is like this pressure being put on you, whether it's good ultimately or not, healthy or unhealthy. That's kind of depending on the person you are. But with me and you, I don't know, I kind of felt like whatever you were allowed to do was the cap at what I was supposed to do or what I was allowed to do as well. And that kind of put me in like a little bit of a box because I personally think that, just with our personalities, you being the older one and kind of being more on the, you were more quiet, or not quiet per se, but like you were always more mesquine in some ways. And, you didn't really try to rattle our parents as much as you could have, or been as rebellious as you could have. And it, having that made me feel like, okay, I have to just keep following this kind of footstep, right? Even when I wanted a lot of different things from my personal life, and the pressure was put on because you were kind of obedient and you were a good kid growing up, even though you got in a lot of trouble, and who didn't. But um, I had to be obedient in a way, in the exact way that you were as well. Um, and I think if you do grow up in like a semi-strict or a strict household, it's your responsibility to kind of break through some of those barriers to, get that life you want to live. And that kind of came, I feel, and I don't know how, I want to hear what you think about, but I think it came a lot from the younger brother's side, being me. Like, I kind of pushed a lot of those boundaries. And then it kind of trickled upwards, because if I can do it, then the older brother, of course, should be able to do it. Not to say that you didn't open a lot of pathways for me. You mentioned like you knew how to get to me in a way that only you could kind of verbalize. So if something was kind of being communicated and I wasn't understanding, or I was getting kind of frustrated, you would be like, okay, yo, like, Deshver, don't worry, like, I went through this, I know how it goes. Just give it a sec, kind of thing.
From I understood it as like a kid or as like a young adult or whatever. Like I understood it from that perspective, but I understood it from your perspective, minus 5 years, but I also understood it from my own brain, like plus 5 years. I'm like, okay, I know you want to do this, like I know how it's gonna pan out in 5 years, so it's not
Yeah,
worth it, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
again, like future projection or whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
But you're right. It was like the rebellious things that I wanted to do but never really did, and you did like whatever those things were. If you got away with it, then I could do it too. But at the same time, I got in trouble because it was always like, why are you letting him do this? You should know, you should tell him not to do this, or you should know better.
Yeah,
He should not do this, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. But deep down, I was like, yo, I kind of want him to do this so I can do it
yeah,
as
yeah.
well, you know?
Yeah, you knew where I was coming from. And I actually noticed that growing up too. Like, I don't think you ever, I did a lot of, not a lot, but I did rebellious things that in the relative household would have been like, I was going against a lot of the rules. Um, and you never came back and kind of told me like, yo, chill out, or you never, and noticing this almost while I speak, but you never really did something like that, because you knew maybe deep down that you wanted to do some of those things too. And I mean, we both kind of rebelled in our own ways, like, you know, and when I'm saying rebel, like, I wasn't like some like junkie
No,
or
this was
doing
like
some
small
crazy
stuff, man.
stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah. It was
This was like
just
small stuff. Yeah.
little barriers that both, every kid kind of needs to break the
Like kid
first
stuff, yeah.
individual trip or first like time staying out super late and whatever. We won't talk about it, but whatever kind of stuff you got to do uh, to enjoy the life you want, right? Have the memories you want. And then there came a time almost where I think like since we were so close, my friends were your friends and your friends were my friends for our whole life, that you started coming to like university parties with me, and you kind of got like a that experience that you may never have had, you know?
Yeah. So I got to relive some of my youth that I didn't get the first time through you. And like again, 5 years is not a huge gap. So our friends are like intertwined. So like you said, our groups are mixed up. So when I come through and hang out with you at like these university parties, I kind of got to relive a second time through you, which was really cool. And then you got the other side of it. You got to like see the future and then experience it again, right? So it's almost like we both kind of did it twice, really. And I attribute that to the fact that we were just so close. Because
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that uh, maybe I owe you like a little bit of a thank you. Like I think I realized it along the way, not like just now, but along the way that a lot of the stuff maybe I got to do was because you kind of stayed silent through it, like almost like a sacrifice. You know, you didn't make a big deal about it and never really kind of gave me uh that that guilty feeling of rebelling and doing all these crazy things while you never got to do them. And because people, you could have easily gotten jealous maybe or whatever it may be. Like I got to get all the technology before you did. If you got a phone in like grade 12, maybe I got it in like grade 9 or grade 10. You know, if I was getting a better birthday present than you just because, I was the prince of the house, right?
yeah,
The
it's
I
like the
had I had the
silent,
general stereotypes of
yeah,
being
yeah.
a younger brother, right? Like I was a little bit spoiled because of I was just I knew how
It's
to
what it is, yeah.
maneuver
Like
my way.
and that's cool. Like it's fine. It's the silent sacrifices, and it's like if you appreciate it at one point, then that's really all you can ask for, I guess, right? But yeah, it is. It's the silent sacrifices that you take um, along the way. And I think for a very long time, maybe that's like an Indian household thing, but you just take it. And the fact that you grow up to be like an adult maybe really doesn't change a lot with how the dynamic is. But again, it's like you just take these silent sacrifices along the way, and so that your sibling can enjoy certain things, right? And in the time where you're like, man, this guy got cool stuff, I didn't. Yeah, it stings, right? Because you're young and you're whatever, you're a kid, you may not know any better. But that doesn't change the fact that at that time, may have sucked. But, as you grow older, you kind of slowly mature and realize that these are the responsibilities that I have as an older sibling. And, but then what would you say those responsibilities were for you as a younger sibling in this dynamic?
Shit, I didn't really have to do much, man. Uh, I guess there was an expectation to I have a trial run, like I have a version of me who's like basically biologically very close, um, very very similar to me, right? So you have all the abilities I did, or a lot of the abilities I had. I should. There was like this weight of you should be doing better than him because you see a version already being played out in the world, right?
But you've
Uh,
already given an opportunity to see what or how it plays out.
yeah, like what?
Yeah.
Because we have certain abilities, right? Like uh just personality wise, like if we grew up with certain ability to speak well, and we had, if you and I were just good at math because we were, or whatever it may be, if I just somehow wasn't, it's like, oh, like look at your brother, he's good, like he's your brother, so that the automatic
You're the same
assumption is that
person. You're the same
you're the same,
intelligence
right?
level or something. Yeah.
And now we are the fucking same. So it's like, what are you gonna do with that? I kind of just had to work. Luckily, I think it played out pretty decently. Like I don't think I was anything that you're really really good at I was horrible at, or anything I was good at you're in contrast not good at. So I think there was a pressure, but I think it was a pressure I'm very happy for. Tough love is just something like I think uh, I actually appreciate it. Maybe that's like a bad thing and I shouldn't, but it helps me grow. I fuel off that stuff. So the responsibilities were just essentially do as
I
good as
just thought
him.
of
And
something with this. Like your your feeling and like experience through this was also shared with me through the expectation and the tough love that you're talking about with our older cousins, right? Who are all very successful, married
yeah,
now, kids, all that stuff, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
we had that like this guy's doing it, this cousin, whatever is doing it,
yeah,
and we had that projection or comparison. Parents do it all the time, whatever. But we had that put on top of us, and it was a lot of pressure. And it was like we got annoyed and angry, and like, why are they comparing us to someone that's 10 years older than us when we haven't even like seen this play out yet? But it was that
yeah.
tough love, and now I'm at that stage where I was getting compared to 10 years ago, and then I'll put myself in that position 10 years ago. I'm like, am I at that stage that I should be at? Maybe in some instances, maybe not.
But
Is
what stage, right? Like, where are you supposed to be anyway?
well,
So
you project yourself 10 years, you get
yeah,
to that point, and then you
yeah,
project yourself 10 more years.
yeah. Like you by 30, certain things should happen, and you know you're almost 30 now. And
Mhm.
one thing I've always noticed is if you're doing the right thing, you're a good person. Like life always finds a way to work out for you, and
Yeah,
things
it
always
works
find a
out.
way to work out.
It always works. Exactly.
But it's to touch on what you said. It's that milestone kind of projection, right? Where we have cousins, what, like 10, almost 15 years older than us, some of them, right? And it's not like these are distant cousins. We are like all a very, very tight family. So
Yeah.
all the time you are going over to these people's houses and having, you know, the fam jams and all that. And one of our cousins is doing something great. That's awesome. We're happy for them. But, and even we feel a little bit of that, like, okay, no, like this is what we kind of have to be at. We have to be at this caliber of performance, etc.
It shows up as lifestyle more than anything, I think, right?
What do you mean?
Like like we're talking about money and success and financial success,
Yeah,
right?
sure,
That's
sure,
really
yeah,
what we're talking about at the end of the
yeah,
day. So
yeah,
it comes down to the ability that the luxury that having money a little bit or above average or a lot, right? That lifestyle that it buys you when it comes to like having dinners, buying food, whatever it is,
yeah,
or certain clothes, like superficial stuff, but also the important stuff, right?
sure, yeah. No, I mean these things are
Vacations,
important.
whatever else, things like that, right? So you're like, shit, I want this too, because
But then,
it's what we know, right? Growing up, we've seen it for so long, so it would be weird if we didn't almost want to put ourselves in that shoe because to us it just seems normal.
yeah, and I think when this got into our parents' minds, almost, um, that's when the pressure kind of comes to us, right? Because I think, I mean, when I was young, I wasn't really thinking about getting all these amazing milestones because like this person was so much older than me. I wasn't even thinking about that, and maybe you were thinking a little bit more, but we saw that gap. But as our parents, they kind of see this and they're like, okay, this is kind of the level that is achievable by our blood, right?
Yeah,
Our lineage. So like whatever it is, and it's tough to tell them that hey, like when that time comes, it'll happen, and if it doesn't, something else will happen. But regardless, what is going to happen will happen, and it's going to be all right. And we're seeing it play out. Like our parents are so much more chill now because they always like worried, like, oh, like, you know, education, this, that. And that's a parent's job, right? To guide us in the correct way. But when it finally came time to it, you know, getting out of high school, getting out of university, finding someone for yourself, and now whatever next stage you're going to enter, and I'm going to enter as well. It just happens and it unfolds in its own kind of special way. But what's
you can't
important
blame your parents
is
for it either, man. We can't. I don't think we
no,
can blame
can't.
mom and dad
Yeah,
for it. Like they weren't wrong to want better for us, like the best, right?
sure.
And when they see really good success coming from the closest people that we have, which is our family, they're like, forget your friends. Like we don't care what they're doing. Like they're in your life. They're very important to us, but it's going to be like the family at the end of the day that really shows you the ropes and whatever else. Again, like relationships change, family, friends, that's different. But what I'm saying is they're like their closest thing, the people they talk to and see all the time, right? They want that life for you. They want success for you. They want them to be better than you. And I don't even think this is like an Indian thing. Maybe that's what people are thinking. That's like, oh, these ethnic parents do this to their kids all the time, and like white parents don't do none of this. But
Yeah.
maybe that's required, right? Maybe that's what did get us to this point, and in some way or another, we can attribute that pressure to what we're doing right now, what we're doing with other things in our lifestyle. What we chose to do is very different, but we're not like 9 to 5 and then just chill at home all day. All we're doing right now is just work, work, work.
Yeah.
Because we have this pressure. Some people may argue that it's bad. Like, why are you killing yourself over this? And I see that side, but on the other side, I'm like, I want more. You want more, right? Like, we know this, and we may never really be satisfied, but we'll have to figure that out when we get there.
Yeah. What I was gonna head towards in the conversation too was that it's the dynamic, I think, which kind of this episode is kind of talking about, is that through all this, through the pressure, through the bouncing back of personalities and backward projection, what's important is that you and your sibling can at least understand that, all right, we lived under the same house. This is what the ball game is, right? This is what the situation is at home. This is what the situation is outside of home. Some siblings aren't close. Most siblings are, I'd assume, because you're siblings.
I think eventually you get to the point where we're generalizing, but you get to the point where you do get close to some extent, maybe.
And what's important is that you stay together, and I think like you build a connection that can last longer than just your childhood. So like we notice that, hey man, like, we're about to enter a new chapter, you mostly, and I'm also getting turbulent in mine. This is kind of where siblings kind of just become Thanksgiving meetup and Christmas meetup and blah blah blah. Like, how were you and I gonna stay together? Because I needed you in my life, like, not because you're my brother, but also because a lot of who I am is who you are, and I wanted to stay close by doing something like this, right? How can we can sit down every week or whatever it may be.
It's a choice we make every day. Like,
yeah, and we get to stay together by business, right?
Yeah, and it's not anything really more than that. It's a choice that you make, just like a choice that you make with your partner or your whoever else you're, any relationship that you have in life. Obviously, your sibling is just kind of more, I would say, important, or more like it's in a more of an important relationship. So it's just a choice we make. We could have chosen to do stuff separately, right? And we do other stuff separately, but it's a way to just continue our relationship and to do stuff together, right? But at the end of the day,
we're too close.
Yeah,
everyone says this about us too.
I know,
man, you guys hang out way too much.
Yeah, but it's a choice, so we can continue to do business together and continue to have success in ways. And then, obviously, when marriage and things like that, kids happen, you choose to keep that family tight and to keep those people involved in your life. At the end of the day, it's just a choice, compromise, and a choice. That's For really sure. all it is. Yeah.
And I think that's it's kind of what this episode is supposed to be. We had a proper, genuine conversation about a lot of things I never thought about. We've discussed openly. I think a lot of our relationship has been like this telekinetic understanding of, we just like could look in each other's eyes and be like, okay, like we know what the situation is, but we never really vocalized it. And doing this podcast, doing this episode kind of brings that out onto the floor, that we can actually talk about how it's been being together for our whole lives, and what's ever going to come next. And I hope, we can continue doing stuff like this. We have a lot of other cool stuff that we're going to also be working on together. And, for people who know us, we hope you can sympathize with who we are and what we're trying to accomplish, which has always been a good message, always been, to spread this love that we've had for each other and see where it can take us.
Yeah, guys. So again, this podcast is going to be us just talking about things that we're interested in. There's a lot we have in store for you guys. This was one that we wanted to start off strong with, talking about our relationship as siblings. And you guys will see our growth through this as well. And I'm excited to see our individual growth as well through this. So guys, you know where to find us. We're going to be on all of the major podcast streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, audio and the video. Everything's going to be linked in the show notes, Instagram, TikTok. Give us a follow. If you guys have some topics that you want us to talk about, we'd love to attack that and see where we go from there. I'm wrapping it up with this, and we got a whole bunch more episodes to record. So, Theodore, let's get to it.
Sounds good, bro. Thank you guys.